it's Jess from Peace Sub Books, and today I'm here with my December wrap-up. In the month of December, I read 26 books. My list is down here. I cannot believe I read this many books. I was on Christmas break for a week and a half, really. I'm a teacher. This was the shortest winter break we've ever had. It was 8 school days and that's it. We went back on Thursday. We're one of the only districts that I even know of that went back on Thursday, which is kind of annoying. Last year we got 1 more day. Every other year we've always had 2 weeks off, but that's okay. I ended up reading a lot. 3 of these were novellas, but I believe all the rest were full-length novels, so I have a lot to get to. So I'm gonna go ahead and get to the books I read in December. The first one was on audio, and that was Finding Eden by Mia Sheridan. I read this on Audible Escape, and I actually read the first book last year or the year before, and it was Becoming Calder, and I absolutely loved it. It was a cult romance. So Eden was like the chosen one that would marry their cult leader and like save them all, and then Calder was just a member of the cult because of his parents, and he and Eden fall in love. And book 1 is on a cliffhanger, and book 2 continues on, and I can't really tell you the plot of book 2 without spoiling book 1, but I found it very boring. I was very, very disappointed in it. It has super high ratings, but when I was listening to the audio, my mind was wandering. I didn't care what they were going through. Nothing really even happened. I wasn't a fan of the romance anymore. I really gave this more of a 2.5 stars. It's 3 on Goodreads right now. I might lower it down to 2, I don't know, but I was really disappointed in this one. The next one's a new favorite of mine that I finally read, and that is From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. I don't know why it took me so long to read this book, because it's massive and it's Mariana Zapata. It's been hit or miss for me with her for this year, but this one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This is so good. It's Lukov is a figure skater. Jasmine's a figure skater as well, and she's kind of reaching her end of her career because she doesn't win anything, she doesn't have a partner, and it's hard to keep up a skating career when she also has to have other jobs because it doesn't really make that much money. Her and Lukov have been enemies forever, and now Lukov needs a new partner and asks her, and she thinks it's a joke, but they partner up. Very reminiscent of Cutting Edge. I absolutely loved it. Amazing enemies to lovers. I loved Lukov so much. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I feel like this month I read a lot of mediocre books, so the next one was highly anticipated. I was sent a copy from the publisher, and I was quite disappointed. That's Where Winter Finds You by J.R. Ward. This one is book 17 and a half in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. It's not as long as they normally are, though it is over 400 pages in this book, so I thought it was going to be a novella. It's Trez's story, and Trez is from the Shadows. He did not get an HEA in the Shadows, a Happily Ever After, which made all of us very upset, and then they kind of hinted at Trez having another romance like 2 or 3 books ago, and he finally gets us here, and it's his chance with a woman who looks like his love interest from the Shadows, and I was bored through most of this. The romance wasn't that great. I knew since she looks like his old love, that would come up as a conflict, and then the ending, I wasn't a fan of how they were brought back together, and I was just bored through most of this, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I really wanted more. The next book I read, which I have a reading vlog all down below of when I read this, that is Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. This one came out this month. I was sent a copy from the publisher, and this is about a mother and a daughter, and we get both of their perspectives, and something happens that really rips their world apart, and we follow them both on their own individual romances. And that's all I really want to tell you. I went in completely blind, and I recommend going in blind. I love this so much. I love both of their romances equally. I understand where both of them are coming from, especially because we typically don't get both sides when it comes to a mother-daughter relationship, so I really enjoyed seeing the mom's thinking of what her choices were, and then the daughter's as well, and so I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I flew through it. Honestly, couldn't put it down, and I'm so happy I ended up loving it. Next, I read To Hate Adam Connor by Ella Mays. I listened to this on audio through Audible Escape, and this one is book 2 in this series, but it can be definitely read as a standalone, and it's a celebrity romance. So Adam Connor is a movie star, and he falls for the girl next door who lives there because her best friend is married to Jason Thorne from book 1. So book 1 was the best friend and Jason's romance, and then this is our main character's romance with the neighbor, and he is a single dad as well, and it's very cute. It kind of starts out as enemies to lovers because he hates her, he thinks she's spying on her when they first meet, and then she kind of ends up taking care of his son when he needs help, and it was adorable. I put it as part of my favorite celebrity romances video, which I will link down below if you guys want to check that out. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It was just I love LMAs. It was so fun, and I really enjoyed the romance. Next I read Would Like to Meet by Rachel Winters. I got this off of NetGalley, and it sounded so good. It's about a girl who works in producing of movies, and so her boss is working for this screenwriter who is just like a hotshot screenwriter. He had like one huge hit, and now he's being hired to write a rom-com, and he is not producing the script, and so she has to go, her job is on the line, she has to go and try to get him to write it because she could get a promotion to actually be an agent, which she's been trying to do for years now, and she has to show this screenwriter that romance actually exists, and she has to create meet cutes, and she has to write about them and send them to him so he can use it as inspiration for his own script. And so she does that, and this father and daughter are very much present at the coffee shop she always goes to and sees a few of her meet cutes and are very invested in her little journey, and I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars. I know a lot of people have been loving it, but I thought it was pretty boring, and none of her meet cutes like actually turned into real dates, which I thought was like really pointless. I'm like, why is she doing this and none of these are turning into something more? Like, they literally all bomb and fail. So I don't know, I really wanted more from this. The ending seemed weird as well. I just wasn't as into it as I wanted to be, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Beautifully Broken Spirit by Catherine Cowles. I was sent this from the author. I believe it's book 3, but I haven't read the other ones. This is about our main character Jensen, who has always been in love with Tuck, who is her brother's best friend. He's also a cop in town. She owns her own like restaurant bakery place, and she also rescues wild horses, and she and Tuck have a relationship, and there's like some mysterious shooter on the loose killing wild horses, so they have to try to figure that out, and she's a single mom. And so this was okay. It was really good in the beginning, and then it was really boring, and then the ending with the whole mysterious shooter guy was very rushed and not good. And so I don't really like it when some normally contemporary romance authors include this like mystery and don't do it well. I've read a few of those where they throw something in and then it wraps up way too quickly and way too unrealistically and very cliche like the bad guy and all the things he says is very cliche, so I wasn't a fan of that. It was just okay. I don't know if I bought the relationship that much, but I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Next, for my book club at school with my students, we read Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This one's a YA mystery, and it's book 1 of 3, which I realized I don't like mysteries that occur in a series because I want to know all the answers now. And so our main character has been obsessed with this murder that happened at this boarding private school, and so she gets in. She's obsessed with true crime, and she wants to be, I think, like a forensic scientist or something, and she's trying to solve the mystery of Truly Devious, who is the person who murdered the wife and daughter of the creator of the school. The wife has been found dead, but the daughter is still like never found, and so she does solve one different mystery while there, but she doesn't solve the Truly Devious murder, and I don't think we're gonna get any solving of that until book 3, which I think comes out this month, but I just don't want to invest myself in a series where we have to wait books until we get to the actual answer. But it was a super fun read. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy it. The romance was very weird to me. Like, I don't think it was necessary at all, and it came out of nowhere, and I didn't like it. But the rest of it was pretty entertaining, so I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Manhattan by Candy Steiner. I got an e-arc from the author. I do believe I'm part of her arc team, so I get all of her arcs. Candy Steiner is one of my favorite authors. This is book 3 in the Becker Brothers series, and it is the youngest brother, Mikey's book, and it is a Friends to Lovers. I realized I read this in another book about a childhood Friends to Lovers romance where the girl has always been in love with the guy and then he finally realizes it. I don't like that kind of romance. I don't like it where the girl has constantly been pining over the guy and then all of a sudden he wakes up and is like, oh wait, you loved me? I love you. I like you. Cool. I see you as that now. I don't like that, and I don't know why. And so in this one, our main character has been in love with Mikey since she was like 12. They both lost parents around the same time, and so they really bonded over that. And Mikey is hung up over his ex-girlfriend who they were dating for 2 years, where he basically dropped his best friend, and then that girlfriend dumped him to go to Nashville to sing, and he's like heartbroken, and he's determined to move to Manhattan after the summer ends. No reason why, no connection to Manhattan, no job lined up, nothing like he's dying to do there. He's just obsessed with the idea, which I guess is kind of like what teenagers do, but they are 18, they just graduated from high school, which is another reason why I didn't love this book. This is like one of the highest rated books in the series by other people. I just didn't really connect with the romance. I didn't really like how he dropped the best friend and now she's like back and she's like, oh, I've always loved you. And he's like, oh, you have? And then like she wears a bikini and he's all like, ooh, like she's a girl, like she's an actual woman. And I'm just like, this is annoying. I feel so bad not liking this. I gave it 4, but it's more like a 3.5 because, but I think it's more of a me problem, and that's why I rounded it up, because those are just the things I don't personally like in a book. It wasn't a badly written book, it's just something I have a pet peeve about. So if it sounds interesting to you, pick it up. I loved book 1 and 2. Book 3 just wasn't my favorite, but book 4 sounds like it's gonna be amazing. I think it comes out in March, so I can't wait for that. The next book I picked up was A Crown of Coral and Pearl, I can never say that right, by Mara Rutherford. I was sent this from the publisher, and this one I just decided to pick up because no one's talking about it, and it's a fantasy, and it really reminds me of the atmosphere of House of Salt and Sorrow. It's about a town that's like on water, and they basically raise their daughters to be like the most beautiful, and whoever is chosen by the kingdom, the most beautiful of the girls, gets to marry the prince, and it's like tradition. And so our main character has been raised with her twin sister to be like the perfect proper women to go marry the prince, but then the main character gets scarred because they like live in water and there's like dangerous things in the water, and in order to save her sister she got scarred, and so her sister really has now been bred to marry this prince, and she gets chosen, and then something happens where the actual scarred sister has to take her place. And so half of the book is like the lead up to them being chosen and leaving, which I'm not sure I liked, because that was the synopsis and it made it seem like that was just like the beginning. So half the book was the lead up to when she actually gets to leave and go to land for the first time, and she gets thrown into this kingdom. There are a lot of these lies and secrets and corrupt people and other princes and like all this stuff going on. I give it 4 to 5 stars. It was really entertaining. I loved the whole on the sea kind of atmosphere, because she was very much like a water child. She loved the water, she loved everything about it, and hated being landlocked into this castle. But it was really great. It was very unique. I gave it 4 to 5 stars. Then I listened to Special Delivery by Lauren Blakely on audio through Audible Escape. This one is a short Christmas romance, and I think it's book 5 in the series, but I read it as a standalone, and our main character is a party planner, and her brother's like business associate needs to plan their business party for Christmas, and so they team up to plan a party together and fall in love. It was very short, very cute. There is a trope at the end I know that Chelsea from Chelsea Darling Reads didn't like, and I don't like that trope either, but it didn't bother me too badly. I gave it 4 to 5 stars. It was very sweet. I really liked how they fell for each other, even though the guy was leaving soon, so he's like, you know, we have an expiration date. Obviously that never works out in romances, so it was adorable. It was fun. If you want a fun Christmas audiobook, check that out. Next, I was feeling very Christmassy, so I picked up Cowboy Under the Mistletoe by Jessica Clare. This is about a guy who has PTSD, and he's coming to town to work on a farm because no other job's really working out for him. And this woman works in the town, and she is always seen as just like, oh, the nice good girl who's been in love with this other guy her whole life, who's never liked her back. And she's like 29, never been in a relationship, and she takes this new guy under her wing and shows him the ropes of how to be a cowboy, because he has no idea and he's being hired to be one, and it's their romance. This has a lot to do with PTSD. I did read this for a reading vlog, which I'll link down below, and I was sent this from the publisher. I enjoyed it. I think I gave it more like 3.5 stars. It was very cute, a very cute romance in Christmas, so if you love Christmas romances, check this out. But yeah, that's really all to say. They do have fake dating involved as well, which was fun. Next, I read Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. This one I got as an e-arc from the publisher, and they sent me a finished copy, which was so exciting. This is book 2 to fix her up, and I know some people have been reading it and not liking it. Our main character, Dominic, is a very alpha male, so I don't have a problem with that kind of character, but a lot of people do. He's very like, I take care of my woman, I'm a man, I don't talk about my feelings. Rosie in the beginning is like, we don't talk. He was in the military, and when he got back, they just like haven't really had a communication or a relationship. So she says she's leaving, and he's like terrified and goes to his friends, including Travis from book 1, at the construction company they work for, and he wants to win her back. They go to a really funny counselor. I gave this 4 to 5 stars. I thought it was so fun. It's very hot. They have a lot of chemistry, which is what was really carrying their relationship, and they learned to talk to each other. There is miscommunication in here, but I thought this was a lot of fun, and I didn't mind it like a lot of other people did, so I gave it 4 to 5 stars, and I definitely definitely recommend you check this out in January. The next one is quite disappointing, and that is Hot Shot by Karina Halley. This is book 3 in a series. It can be read as a standalone. I listened to it on audio. It's all about firefighters, and it was awful. It was about a girl who loved this guy since she was a kid, and he all of a sudden likes her for no reason, and he's a jerk, and there's nothing about him I found appealing. He leaves all the time because of his job, and he just like kind of like kicks her aside, and she for some reason is madly in love with him. I couldn't even finish this. I DNF'd it with like only 2 hours left of the audiobook. I was so close to being done, and I was just like, I can't, because one of my least favorite tropes came in, and then he was stupid and then got mad at her for like being mad at him, and it was just annoying. He was such an unlikable character. I could not stand this book. Gave it 1 star. Couldn't even finish it. Next, I decided to listen to Imperfect Match by Corinne Michaels and Melanie Harlow on audio on Audible Escape. This one's a friends to lovers romance about a girl who works for a dating company that her parents created, and they're gonna sell it, I think, or give it to the daughter. I don't remember, her sister. And she decides she wants to prove that she can take over the business, and she wants to create a perfect match, and she is told to do her best friend, who's a guy. They live across the hall from each other. They hang out every night together, and her parents are like, he's holding you back. He's the one you hang out with. You need to go find someone for yourself. And she's like, but we're best friends. Like, we just love hanging out. And she's like, fine, I'll set him up on dates. And she does, and then they kind of both get feelings at the same time, which is what my favorite friends to lovers is. I like it when not one person has the feelings, that they both are best friends, and then they both at the same time realize like, hey, like, I kind of like you. Kind of like my favorite Half Nine Stand by Christina Lauren. I love that friends to lovers. This kind of is like that, and so she's setting up on dates, and they both kind of realize they like each other, but she's still gonna set him up on dates, and it's super, super fun. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, a very high 4 out of 5 stars. The audiobook was super fun to listen to. I definitely recommend. Next, I read Forbidden by Beverly Jenkins. This is for the Ravished by Romance book club for December. I'll leave our live show linked down below. This one is a Old West romance, and I've been meaning to read Beverly Jenkins. She is like the classic black romance author who really paved the way for romance, and I don't like historicals that take place in America. It's just not my thing. That's why I'm not a fan of Outlander season 4, because it's all in America, and I don't like American history. Even though I live here, I am not a fan of American history, and so this takes place where she is the daughter of a slave, I want to say, and it's like when slavery was abolished, but there's still a lot of racism going on, and she is trying to make her way to California, and she gets just bad luck and just bad people along the way, and she's kind of stranded in this town where this guy is like the rich guy who owns the saloon, and he is just friends with everybody. He's like part of their political party. It was hard to keep track of that. And he's actually black, but he looks white because his father is white, and so he's been passing as white, which he feels guilty about, but it's what can give him a good life right now, and he falls for her. And it's good. I liked the messages behind it. I know a lot of Beverly Jenkins novels have to do with racism and race issues in history, so I appreciated that, but the romance itself was kind of boring. It was very slow. I gave it 3 stars, maybe 3.5, but I was just bored most of the time and can't even tell you like what actually really happened. So, and it's super slow burn. Like, they didn't even really like get together until like well over 200 pages into this book, so yeah. Next, I picked up Someday Someday by Emma Scott for the Pick What I Read Next for December, and for the highest rated books on my TBR video I did, which I will link down below. This one is an MM romance between a guy who is a fully recovered addict, and he moved back to Washington to kind of try to patch things up with his family, and he is also a nurse. When he came out to his family, they pretty much kicked him out when he was like 16, 17, and so he ended up on the streets and a drug addict. And so now he's finally got his life together, but he's a sponsor for addicts, and he meets this guy there who is just newly recovering from being an addict, and he is also gay, but he is very much closeted because his father hates gays and put him through conversion therapy. And so this is a very, very touchy book, lots of trigger warnings for it, and the main nurse character ends up working as a home nurse for the other character's father. And so it goes from there. It's very, very emotional, very sad, but the romance is just so sweet. And the one guy who has the father who's sick, they're very wealthy, and he has a brother who has autism, and he was my favorite character of the whole book, and this book is just incredible. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I can't rave about it enough. I think you all should pick it up. Next for that video, I picked up Heartbreak Warfare by Kate Stewart and Heather Orgeron. I don't know how to say that last name, but this is a military romance, and it is a love triangle. Our main character is a female going in the military, and she really just works with the medical side, and she ends up getting ambushed though, and she is kidnapped with this one guy, and they've always like, the guy's flirted with her, but she's married with a child, and she absolutely loves her husband. He's older. I think she met him when she was 18, so she's been married young. She has a child, and she really loves her husband, but she goes through this traumatic experience with this other guy and knows that they have chemistry together because they had it before they went through this experience, and now she's back home and she doesn't know what to do. So it is a love triangle, very much associated with PTSD. Lots of trigger warnings for what happens to her. In the military, there is sexual assault, there is kidnapping, lots of things. So this is a very sensitive topic, and it was a very serious book to read, especially the beginning where you know they're leading up to something and then you have to experience it with them, and it's really hard for her to be back home. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I kind of knew where the ending was going, and it was kind of slow, but it was super emotional, so I really did enjoy this. It's super popular. It has over like a 4.5 rating on Goodreads, but I would recommend it. Then I picked up The Guy on the Left by Kate Stewart from Kindle Unlimited, and this is Troy's story, and he is trying to show the mother of his child that he is worthy of her love and being a father, because he was not allowed to see his child for like 5 or 6 years because he kind of lied to her about who he was. And so this one was so good in the beginning. It's kind of like a second chance, even though they never were in love in the first place. They just had a one-night stand. But I didn't like the girl main character. I'm blanking on her name. She was just, she's a single mom. She was betrayed by him, but she was so rude and so mean and so judgy about him. And one of my biggest pet peeves is that someone is accused of something that you know they wouldn't do, and that the main character has learned to trust them and knows they wouldn't do, but still like without a doubt believes it and like is like, oh, I knew it all along that that was what you were like. So that's what happened in this book. I really didn't like that point, but I gave it 4 to 5 stars. Love the beginning. The ending was just okay, but this is still a really fun series that you definitely have to check out. Then the KU readathon started, so I do have a vlog of that down below. I did a weekend readathon with a bunch of people here on BookTube, and the first book I picked up was Highland Secret by Kerrigan Byrne. This one is a novella, and it is about a woman who has a relationship with this guy who's a Highlander but also has some kind of power. It got hot and heavy really fast, and then it got to some interesting of the paranormal stuff near the end, but I still can't fully wrap my head around it. It was very fast and short, and I needed a lot more explanation, especially because I'm really bad with like paranormal fantasy stuff, like catching on to things. It takes me a little bit to get it. So I gave this 3 to 5 stars. I think I would have loved it if it was like a full-blown story, but as a novella itself, 3 stars. Then I picked up my favorite book of the year, and that is Wolf Song by TJ Klune. This one is a paranormal romance with werewolves. Ox is our main character. He's a human, and he kind of befriends this wolf family without knowing it, and it goes from there. And it is MM, and it's amazing. I loved it. I talk about it in my Reading the Highest Rated Books on my TBR vlog. I also talk about the top books of 2019 that I read, so check that out. I won't talk about it anymore, but 5 out of 5 stars, one of my new favorites. I've already bought books 2 and 3, and I'm obsessed. Then I picked up Full Court Press by Kennedy Ryan. This is a short story that's in the Hoops thing that she did, and it is about characters from her basketball series but not main characters, and the girl is a reporter and the guy is a basketball player, and they meet in the locker room when he is still like young and hotshot, and he asks her out and she's like no, and then she's embarrassed and she has to kind of live it down with her male counterparts. And then we fast forward 10 years and he is hired to be on the talk show with her for sports analysis stuff, and so it's their romance. It's really fun, really adorable. I loved it. I would have loved it even more if it was a full-blown novel. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I wanted more from it, but it also does deal with suicide, so be aware of that going into it. I had no idea it would take on that kind of serious turn. I should have known. It's Kennedy Ryan, but I really enjoyed it. Then I picked up The Rebel King by Kennedy Ryan. This is book 2 in the All the King's Men series, I think is what it's called, and it's a duet, and so it's the second part of the story, and I can't tell you really all that much, but it is a romance between a girl who is half Native American, and she is very passionate about her Native American heritage and the pipelines that are going in on Native American land. She protests them, and she kind of falls for the guy whose father's responsible for it, and he doesn't tell her until the end of the first book who he is, and that really hurts her, and it's their journey of their romance. The guy hates his dad and all he stands for, and he grows up to be this like green mogul who like really builds up this really strong company of helping the environment, and spans like 10 years of their relationship, and then book 2 takes off from where book 1 ended off. And it was really good. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I love this series so much. I highly recommend it. Kennedy Ryan is amazing. This one starts out kind of suspenseful, which I liked, so I definitely recommend the series. Then I picked up Sacrificed to the Beast by Jessica Cain. This is my first Jessica Cain. It was like 50 pages, and it was not good. I don't like it. Lots of people here on BookTube love Jessica Cain. I realize she is not for me. It is very quick to the point, raunchy, no real plot line whatsoever. She just is sacrificed to this beast that has been terrorizing their town, but it takes place in modern day, so okay. And she is pretty much swept up by this barbarian guy who's been living in the woods, and they automatically are like, hey, like, we got some chemistry, let's go for it. And it was just weird. I gave it 2 stars. I'm not rooting any more Jessica Cain, but I'm glad I saw what the hype was about. Then I picked up Bound by Honor by Cora Riley. This is book 1 in this Mafia series. I've been meaning to read it for so long. I know a lot of people love this series, and it is about a girl who, when she's 15, she is betrothed to this, I think he's 20 at the time, Mafia guy from New York, I want to say, and she lives in Chicago. I don't remember. It's like the different mafia family from a different city. I think it's New York. And so she knows that when she turns 18, she's going to have to marry him because he's waiting until she's legal. And so she waits the 3 years. She has, her best friend is her sister, and then she has another sister and a brother, and they end up getting married, and it's their romance. And so she doesn't know anything about him. She's scared of him. She has been kept untouched for him, and she's terrified of him, and she learns to trust him, and he's very actually sweet and shows her that he's not a monster, and it's got some mafia stuff in it. So I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, a really high 4 out of 5 stars. I do think there wasn't too much going on in the plot until the end, but I'm really excited to pick up the rest of the series, and I'm so happy I picked it up. I apologize for how long this video is, but the last book I picked up is Watch Over Me by Viola Gray. I was sent this from the publisher, and I was so excited to read it. It's book 4, I think, but it doesn't say that on Goodreads, but this is the 4th book with this like kind of cover. I've read the first 2, loved them, haven't heard the best things about book 3, so I haven't picked it up, and I picked this one up. Our main character, Zoe, is running from an abusive father, and he was released from jail, and so her and her mom and her brother and her sister all run to where her older brother is living, and he is like days from deployment though, and so his best friend Tristan works for the Coast Guard, and he has them move in across the hall from him, and he promises to watch over them. Him and Zoe have a romance because they start falling for each other. Zoe feels guilty though because she's pretty much the caregiver of her family. She's like 19, and it's their romance, and I was loving the beginning, and then it quickly fell down from there. I did not like this really at all. The romance happened very fast. The pacing was weird, like months would pass, and I didn't like what they did with the dad's storyline, and it felt like everybody was very cliche and exaggerated. Like, just like their characters were very one-dimensional, and they had the one thing about them, and that was it, and they served their purpose with the plot. I give it 3 out of 5 stars. It could have been a lot better, and it's very disappointing considering I loved books 1 and 2, so I didn't really like this one. And that is my December wrap-up. Let me know down below what you read this month and what you loved, or if you read any of these and you're excited that I read them. I would love to know. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.